Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting Australian Indian Radio and Brisbane Indian Times daily live updates, and welcome to our weekend edition. Yes, this is going to be our weekend edition, and a very, very warm welcome to you. So how's your day going so far? Well, today, let's take a very quick look at the weather first up, and then we will move on to the rest of the show for today. So right now, let's hear for the weather.
Good afternoon, my name is Kimber Wong. I'm a forecaster at the Bureau of Meteorology, and I'm just going to give a quick update on the Queensland weather expected over the next couple of days. A fire weather warning will be issued this afternoon for severe fire dangers forecast for the Darling Downs and Granite Belt, as well as the Maranoa and Warrego districts on Friday. What we have is a trough approaching from the west, and we'll have strengthening winds ahead of that trough combining with warm and dry air mass leading to those elevated fire dangers. We also have very high fire dangers across southeastern districts from today right through the weekend, as we have dry and sunny conditions persisting. Very high fire dangers are also continuing about some northern districts, as maximum temperatures remain above average in the far north. That trough approaching from the west will cross the south of the state through the day on Friday and into early Saturday before clearing offshore during the day on Saturday. And behind that trough, we're expecting quite gusty southwesterly winds to push through across the south of the state. So wind chill will be quite a strong factor, particularly about the southeast interior on Saturday. And with those gusty winds and quite a dry air mass pushing in behind that trough, we are expecting fire dangers to remain elevated across the southeast during the weekend. With that cool change pushing through, particularly about the southeast interior, we are expecting maximum and minimum temperatures to drop significantly as we head into the weekend. So Friday is looking to be quite a warm day across the southeast, but for Saturday those maximum temperatures will drop several degrees, and with gusty southwesterly winds coming through, we are expecting wind chill to be quite a significant factor. What we're also looking at is, with that dry air mass coming through and quite a cool change, is the potential for some late season morning frosts about the Granite Belt on Sunday morning and Monday morning. We'll see a gradual increase in those temperatures, bouncing back to about average for this time of year as we head through next week along the east coast. Elsewhere, we've had a couple of showers and thunderstorms about central parts of the state over the last couple of days. Particularly west of Mackay, we had a couple of severe thunderstorms through the afternoon on Wednesday. We had isolated rainfall totals with those thunderstorms getting up to about 50 or 60 millimetres. But elsewhere, thunderstorm and shower activity brought us about 30 to 40 millimetres about the central coast, down through the northern Capricornia and the Central Highlands and coalfields as well. Over the next couple of days, we're expecting that shower and thunderstorm activity to start easing up. So still there is the chance of some showers and thunderstorms about the central inland north of Rockhampton today, and about the central east coast north of about Hervey Bay tomorrow, as the trough in the area stalls and starts to weaken. That activity will clear by the weekend, with dry conditions expected pretty much statewide over the weekend. With the cold front that's coming through over the next couple of days, we do have those strong winds picking up ahead of the trough in particular. So we do have a strong wind warning for the Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast and Moreton Bay on Friday, and that strong wind warning is likely to continue into early Saturday as well. We also have a couple of flood warnings current for minor flooding that's the result of some recent rainfall in the far west of the state. So we have a current flood warning for the Diamantina River at Diamantina Lakes, and we also have a minor flood warning for the Thompson River, where minor flooding is possible at Stonehenge today, and the Baloo River downstream of Quilpie, where minor flooding is possible at Thargomindah late this week. We haven't had any follow-up rainfall, so hopefully that is the extent of the flood warnings that we will have as we head into the weekend and early parts of next week. As we turn to next week, we are expecting showers to start to return to the east coast as we have moisture returning in onshore flows as our high-pressure system moves into the Tasman Sea. There are early indications that we may see some further shower and thunderstorm activity through western parts of the state through the later parts, middle or late next week, as we have another upper trough system approaching from the west. However, there does remain some uncertainty in the modelling, just given the lead time at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that feed, and we will work with that feed on a daily basis if the chances be. Well, right now, welcome to Gentex Multimedia livecast for Saturday, the 26th. Victoria has recorded 14 new cases and 8 deaths today, ahead of the Premier's announcement of easing restrictions on Sunday. Premier Daniel Andrews has refused to say who bungled the hotel quarantine. Well, who wants to own up? Meanwhile, Queensland has opened its doors to ICT amid the rising tensions over the withdrawal of IDF troops and border checkpoints. So follow Chantec's multimedia for key updates and live streams from Australia and around the world. Victorian Premier doesn't know who hired security guards for hotel quarantine. Victoria records 14 new cases and 8 deaths, and 4 new cases in New South Wales and 3 in the hotel quarantine. Well, right now, let's go to the first news for today, and we will join in with our Prime Minister.
Mr. President, this is an historic and unusual gathering of our General Assembly. We gather not in the great city of New York, but from among our people, from across the nations of the earth, as together we face the same storm, a global pandemic that has claimed the lives of at least 1 million souls that we know of and has plunged our world into a global economic recession. These events remind us of our shared humanity, our interdependence, and indeed the value of our common hope to get an education, a job, a livelihood, to be safe, healthy and free, to live in a clean and unpolluted environment. In such times of crisis, there is actually an opportunity for our shared humanity to overwhelm the differences that usually beset us and to focus once again on pursuing our common hope, which is why we gather. I speak to you today from Sydney, Australia's largest city and the ancient home of the Gadigal people, one of Australia's many Indigenous peoples who have cared for our continent for more than 60,000 years, the world's oldest continuous living Indigenous culture. And so I acknowledge their elders, past, present and future, as I make these remarks from Sydney today. Australia is contending with this storm of the global COVID-19 pandemic and recession with great determination. Our aim is simple: to deny the virus the destruction it seeks to visit upon us, upon our lives and our livelihoods. Sadly, over 800 Australians have lost their lives to COVID-19. But in comparative terms, we have fared better than most, and we are grateful for that. Our COVID-19 case and fatality rates are a fraction of those across the globe. And while our economy has not been spared the blow of recession, our first in almost 30 years in Australia, the impact has been far less than almost every other developed economy in the world. Almost half the jobs that we had lost to the virus early on have been already recovered. Australia is getting on with the job. Our National COVID Safe Action Plan has been straightforward. Secure our borders early and consistently. Entrench COVID-safe behaviours in our community.
So Australia is getting on with the job, and right now, I'd like to welcome all our viewers once again. It's wonderful to, connect with you all on this beautiful Saturday morning right here from sunny Brisbane. Well, right now, let's take a very quick look at the headlines before we go into the stories for today.
.net.au and also on iView. These are the top stories on ABC News today. Victoria's latest coronavirus case numbers remain steady on a downward trend, fueling hope that restrictions will be eased soon in Melbourne. 14 new infections and 8 deaths were reported in the past day. The figures come as Premier Daniel Andrews prepares to front the hotel quarantine inquiry later this afternoon. The federal government insists consumers will be protected under its proposed overhaul of lending laws. The changes will mean borrowers won't need to hand over as much information to banks, in turn shortening the time it takes to secure a loan. The opposition says it needs to see the detail of the proposed legislation before deciding whether or not to support it. The cricketing community is today remembering one of Australia's greatest players, Dean Jones, who has died at the age of 59. He was in Mumbai commentating on the Indian Premier League when he had a heart attack. The Victorian was known as an aggressive and talented batsman who could turn a match. He played 52 tests for Australia and was inducted into the Cricket Hall of Fame last year. And the breaking news, the portrait of Adam Goods by Vincent Namatjira has won the Archibald Prize for Portraiture. The work is titled Stand Strong for Who You Are. It's the first time an Indigenous artist has won the prize in its 99-year history.
All that and much more coming right up in the news right now. But as we know, this year has not been a very good year for Bollywood or for India. There's been so many, high-profile deaths as well. We had this Sushant Singh case, which is still going on, and all these other cases that we've looked at. And the last, is a legendary singer, Bala Subramaniam, as he has passed away. Our condolences to the family, and it is a very sad loss to the music industry as well. Let's take a look at that news coming out of India.
Big breaking news coming in. Singer SP Balasubramaniam unfortunately has passed away at 1:04 p.m. today. Passes away in Chennai. He had tested positive for coronavirus but had recovered, and the music legend is now no more. Veteran singer SP Balasubramaniam has passed away at the age of 74. Akshay Nath is now joining us for the very latest. Akshay, it's very sad news coming in of SP Balasubramaniam, the singer, the veteran singer who passed away. He had tested positive for COVID but recovered. What happened there really?
Well, Chethi, what we are seeing here is a very, very tragic news coming in from the hospital where popular legendary singer SP Balasubramaniam was admitted at. On August 5, he was admitted here. He had symptoms of COVID, and then his health condition deteriorated, and today we are being told that he has passed away due to ill health. Even yesterday there was a news bulletin which was given by the hospital authorities stating that his condition has worsened. He was in complete life support, and today at 1:04 p.m. the legendary singer has passed away, and the announcement has come in the way of his son coming out and speaking to the media and announcing that his father passed away, and he thanked all those people who have been praying for his father and his recovery for the last 1 month or over days. And sadly, it is a tragic news coming for all the music lovers. In fact, SPB is known for his singing in Malayalam, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, and even many of the popular numbers from Hindi films as well has been sung by SP Balasubramaniam, and has a very, very vast career to talk about. He's been a music director, singer, actor, and today very, very tragic news comes in the way of all these music lovers and cinema enthusiasts that SP Balasubramaniam is no more. Actor Kamal Haasan had come and visited the legendary singer yesterday at the hospital. Today again there were array of celebrities who came and met the celebrity singer, but unfortunately the hospital authorities have said that the singer succumbed to his illness, and today he's no longer there.
So Balasubramaniam is no more, and that is a very, very sad loss to the industry, I must say. A very amazing singer. Here's a compilation of some of the songs which he sang. Some of the songs might get muted, but we will play those songs for him as a wonderful, wonderful singer. So, some beautiful numbers that he has done over the years. We pay tribute to him on this day. Beautiful, another beautiful number that
तुझ बिन तरसे नैना, आँखों में तू है, आंसू में तू है, आँखें बंद कर लो तो मन में भी तू है, ख्वाबों में तू, सांसों में तू, रोजा आके तेरी बाहों में हर शाम लगे.
Another beautiful number. So all he's put out some lovely, lovely numbers. we remember him on this day, and we will bring to a full show, a tribute to him in the coming days. Well, right now, just taking a very quick look at the COVID-19 cases and the numbers. So the total numbers in Queensland, 1,153, and the recovery, 1,141, with 6 recorded deaths. The total for Australia now is at 27,000, and the recovery at 24,396, and the deaths 869 cases. Now worldwide, we were talking about 30 million last week, 32.4 million. So worldwide 32.4 million, and the recovery is 22.3, and the deaths 985,000. So that's a lot of people who have passed away as a result of this pandemic. And of course, the second wave that's sweeping Europe at the moment, and it's being trying to be, once again brought under control. But right now, let's hear from our Premier. As he says, the number of people allowed outdoors is going to increase.
Firstly, and this is good news because we're doing so well with COVID that we can actually ease some restrictions even more across Queensland. We will be increasing the density from 1 per 4 square metres to 1 per 2 square metres outdoors. So today I can announce that more people will be able to meet their friends in a local beer garden or at an outdoor cafe. Effective from 1 a.m. on October the 1st, we are increasing the number of people who can gather in these places as long as it is outdoors. It means businesses can increase the number of patrons from 1 per 4 square metres to 1 per 2 square metres. So this is what some of the businesses have been calling for. I've been listening. People raised it with me as well in regional Queensland. It's going to be very welcome, and it means more people can enjoy outdoor cafes, dining, beer gardens across Queensland. Also, more people will be allowed into our theme parks and our zoos. End of year school and sports events will be able to increase from 500 to 1,000 people outdoors, but you must have a COVID safe checklist. So, for example, if people were thinking about having Christmas carols at the end of the year, you'll be allowed to have 1,000 people. Thirdly, stadiums capacity will also be increased from 50% to 75%. We are able to do this because Queenslanders have done such a great job with COVID, our health response. We're on top of the health response, which means now we can help the economy recover more, which means more people are allowed into these venues, which means more staff can come on as well. So hopefully we'll see people back to work as part of our economic plan for recovery.
And that is good news, as he mentioned, that it is the good news about the numbers and the numbers being under control at the moment as well. And thank you for once again joining me on this beautiful Saturday morning. Next up, we go to Victoria, where Premier Daniel Andrew faces questions over how decisions for that hotel quarantine were made. Question time for him.
So to pick up on your point, Premier, Cabinet's an obvious example of group decision-making, but everyone who's there understands that that's what they're doing. They're participating in a group decision-making process.
That is correct, yes. That is
and
correct.
they're all able to say afterwards, yeah, I was part of that. I was part of that decision-making.
Yes, and furthermore, at a subsequent meeting, if the decision were not recorded accurately, if you had a different view, if your participation was not recorded accurately, then you have opportunities to correct the record. There's a formality to that, even though it's collective.
So here, assuming that Mr. Eccles' analysis is correct and this was an instance of collective decision-making, one would expect those who were part of the collective to know that they were and to be able to identify themselves as part of that decision-making. Is that fair?
I would certainly hope so.
And so, given that would be your hope, it's alarming here, isn't it, that to the extent that it was a collective decision, no one seems to have understood that they were part of it.
Yes, it is very disappointing.
And would you agree with me that, perhaps to flag another potential explanation that's been offered by a witness, that to the extent that, for example, it turns out that it wasn't really a decision consciously made by anyone, but rather a kind of creeping assumption that formed amongst a group, that would be equally concerning, wouldn't it?
Perhaps even greater.
Because it would mean that no one had actually turned their mind at all, potentially, to whether or not the use of private security was a good idea, and whether or not the decision that had been made by someone with proper authority.
Ms. Elliard, that would, as I said, that would be even more concerning to me, because that's not a decision at all. That's just a series of assumptions.
And again, to pick up a point you've just made, whichever it is, creeping assumptions or a collective decision without a collective, we're left with a situation where no one owns the decision for the purposes of following up if it was the right one, and if it wasn't the right one, making necessary changes.
Well, he was not aware of the collective decision process. Well, as we have seen from that, how they reached that decision. The next point that we're going to talk about is the offer that was made by IDF to help in that hotel quarantine. And the Premier, Daniel Andrews, says he was not aware of that.
I want to now ask you about your knowledge of some contact occurring between Mr Eccles of your department and Mr Gaetjens, his counterpart at the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet. May I call up, please, Mr Operator, document DPC.0014.001.004. And I'll perhaps give you some context, Mr Andrews, but firstly I'll ask you, have you seen these emails before?
I have seen them only in preparing for my evidence today.
Thank you. So Mr Eccles' evidence is that the context of the email at the bottom, the email to him from Mr Gaetjens, was a telephone conversation that he recalls that he had, in which he made an inquiry about the potential availability of Commonwealth funds to assist with the costs of private security. So his evidence is that that's the context of a conversation that ranged perhaps over other areas but included that request. And in response to that request,
So that inquiry keeps continuing, and he tells the inquiry that, he would have expected to have been informed about an email offering the help from IDF, and that's that email that's been brought up in the screen there by the inquiry. And as we know that it is an in-depth inquiry, and we will keep an eye on that and bring to you all the updates as they happen. Well, right now for the next news, Kucha Edward explains the gulf between Aboriginal and white Australians' understanding of peasants passing. So let's get to that news.
Coming across into courts services Victoria, and in particular the Coroner's Court, the court structure, our people have not been supported by the court structure over the years. There is a fear, but in Victoria we've done such a great effort and started to take some great steps in implementing more culturally adaptive processes for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So coming into the Coroner's Court was a little bit of the unknown. I certainly respectfully know my place with sorry business, but I just saw it a great opportunity to get in and engage our families through the most difficult time, to hold our families' hands, to hold my brothers, sisters, aunties, uncles, and walk with them on the journey. To do what I do now is an honour and a privilege. There's no other words that I can come up with. It's an honour to represent my community and my people, and it's also a privilege to represent those that have gone before us and guide them and the families through our process.
So there are the cultural differences, and we always need to be very mindful of that. As Deputy State Coroner Caitlin Inglis speaks about the court's effort to uphold the Aboriginal and Torres Islander cultures.
It's a catch-22 in reference that to come in contact in regards to that building in South Melbourne in Bank Street, the coroners. You've got to go to not physical manifestation of that
really, in the court, when a case comes to the coroner's court, it really does represent, an intrusion by the state at a deeply personal time for families, a deeply private time for families. And so to have it explain that the reason why perhaps a passing has been reported and the reason for that, the reason for the coronial investigation is potentially to look at any systems problems that might have led to that death that could be preventable and therefore have a larger public interest and purpose or achieved for the rest of the community. To have that explained by someone like Troy in plain sort of language, I think is enormously important. And then not only that, Troy's able to help those families through the investigative process, and then ultimately if the case goes for hearing, he's able to provide advice. In some cases, he can provide coroners with cultural briefs, which is important cultural information, family information about a person who's died. And that's been enormously important for coroners and court staff in terms of not only our approach to these cases, but the language that we're using and our ability to be much more responsive in a court hearing to take into account the cultural aspects of the case.
It is important to see that these days there's so much emphasis put on understanding these cultures and especially our First Nations people. It is very, very important, and through many of the work that we do as well through Queensland Multicultural Council, we've been advocating for that, there needs to be a better understanding of all the cultures, and when it comes to our First Nation people, even more so in that case. Well, right now, let's go to the markets and do the wrap-up for this week, as this is the weekend edition.
Roger, it's been a pretty big week for the banks. Of course, the latest in change, of course, to that responsible lending. What's been the market move for bank stocks?
Well, I think Westpac's share price is a sign that the overhang of the issue around what the fine was going to be and how large that might be, that's been removed. And so while reputationally it might be damaging in the short term for Westpac, what we've got to remember is that overhang is gone, but there's a huge amount of inertia in banking in Australia. So the competitive landscape's not going to change dramatically at all, and that's why you've seen the share price recover today.
And that's similar growth, I guess, across the banking sector.
Indeed. And so the announcement by the government that the shackles are off in terms of the lending restrictions and their requirement to collect information before approving an application, that's going to have a huge boost to credit growth. It means that analysts may upgrade their credit growth numbers, but perhaps more importantly for property prices, it's very, very positive, because what we know is in the short and medium term, not so much in the long term, but in the short and medium term, it's credit availability that drives house prices in Australia. In the long term, of course, it's immigration.
There's been increased sort of discussion about what the RBA may or may not do on budget day. We've seen a couple of the lenders already cut their variable interest rates. What will that do for markets if we see a further rate cut?
Well, in theory, lower interest rates is positive for asset prices because of the present value calculation.
A lower interest rate is better for asset prices, so it is good news. And as we know, real estate has come quite a lot under the focus just lately. And with the easing of the laws around borrowing and lending, when it's made easier for people to have access to the loans without horrendous paperwork, demanded by the lending institutions. So that will see a lot more people coming into the market as well. And what we have found talking to the people within the industry, such as GlobeNet Realty, is that there is a shortage of properties on the market, meaning, there is a strong demand still out there, but the people are still a bit reluctant to put their homes on the market under the current probably circumstances. But as we know, through tough and tall ups and downs, real estate has always been a very safe investment for people. Of course, what it means that, in real estate cycles, the key is buying at the right time and selling at the right time. So timing always matters. So, when the normal trend is when everyone's doing the same thing, everyone goes, oh, the market is very good, or that area is coming up a lot, let's go to that area. The smart and astute buyer will not do that. He will say, all right, everyone's running to that area, he'll run the other way to find out where people are not going and what might come up in price in the further years. So he looks beyond the current rush. So those are the people who have made good money in real estate. But right now, let's take a very quick break as we go to our sponsors, GlobeNet Realty.
GlobeNet Realty. GlobeNet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Washa Chandra, Director of GlobeNet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Usha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetralty.com.au. GlobeNet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GlobeNet Realty. Real estate is our world.
GlobeNet Realty. Well, right now, let's keep moving on with the news. Dennis Cladden says he believes justice has been delivered to Ciara. Father of Ciara Glennon delivered an emotional statement after yesterday's conviction of Bradley Edwards.
When Ciara was deemed a missing person, I appealed for help to find her in a press conference like this, in this very same room. And through tears, I said she would fight for her life because of the way she was brought up. She would fight for her life. And little did we know then how prophetic these words would be. As she fought to save her life, she left us the vital DNA clues. Ciara was strong in spirit, had courage, great courage, but yet as she fought to save her life, she could not save herself. The past is unquestionably, for us, engulfed by sadness, and that is a powerful force. But as a family, the past is transcended. It's transcended by the fond memories of Ciara. Yes, memories watered by tears.
Yes, memories watered by tears, always remembered. Next up is a good news. Vincent Namatia is the first Indigenous Australian to win the Archibald Prize. That's a good, very good news.
What an honour it is to be the first Indigenous winner of the Archibald Prize. It took 99 years. It only took 99 years. I'm so proud to be the first, but I'm also to acknowledge all the Indigenous finalists and Indigenous citizens for the Archibald this year and in the past years. Thank you.
Indeed, wonderful news, as he said, that it only took 99 years. Well, right now, Health Minister Jenny Mikakos, her press conference where security guards was mentioned as jobs for the minister.
The fourth Victorian to COVID-19. The total number of, and that was a gentleman who was in his 80s who has died in a Melbourne hospital. The total number of cases overnight is another 84 cases, taking us to a total of 769. We now have had 193 people who have recovered. There are 21 cases, confirmed cases of community transmission to date. That remains unchanged. We have 26 people in hospital, including 4 patients in intensive care, and there have been 39,000 Victorians who have been tested for COVID-19 to date. So whilst the numbers, the new numbers, are slightly down in terms of the increases that we had yesterday, the numbers do continue to trend up, and of course that is very concerning to us. I take this opportunity to reiterate to the community, whilst today is a beautiful sunny day in Victoria, we do encourage people, we urge people to stay at home. If you can stay at home, you must stay at home. That this is the only way we're going to defeat COVID-19. It's the only way we're going to slow down the spread of COVID-19 if people heed our message and stay home. I'm just going to make one quick announcement before I hand over to Minister Pakula, and that is that, of course, our frontline healthcare workers are our true heroes, and when I see people ignoring the messages and going to the beach and gathering together in large numbers, I just want people to remember that our healthcare workers are risking their lives each and every day for you. They are doing this for you, they're doing this for your family, and they deserve our support and our respect. We have put the call out to retired healthcare workers to come back and support our healthcare system at this challenging time. And today I'm announcing that we now have a dedicated link on the Department of Health and Human Services website, and that is healthworkforceresponse.dhhs.vic.gov.au. I'll be putting out a tweet shortly with that link so people can find their way and register their details. So they'll be asked a series of questions about themselves, their professional background, and then we'll be looking at how we can match their particular skill sets with the needs that we will have in coming weeks. I take this opportunity to thank in particular the ANMF, who are running refresher training courses starting from this week for retired nurses to come back and work in our health system, and I thank them for that work. And I thank also the Victorian Ambulance Union, who have also had expressions of interest from retired paramedics as well. So we do think that we will have a number of retired healthcare workers who will be willing to come back and assist us, and I understand that already we've had about 100 people express interest to date, and we think now with the website, the link there, people being able to register, that we'll be able to get more people to indicate their support. We've also been working at a national level with APRA, and they'll be making some announcements shortly around making sure that people who have previously practiced can get their re-registration done in an expedited manner, so that there's no impediment to people being able to come back and assist us at this vital time. So I'm obviously happy to take questions later, but I'll hand over now to Minister Pakula, who will speak to what has happened overnight with return travellers.
So that was there, and don't forget that was a replay of a older interview, but because she mentioned about the security guards, and that's why that was been played, so let's have a listen to that.
Thanks, Jenny. In the spirit of the times, I'll be brief so that you can all get home as well. We have had 6 flights land in Melbourne this morning under the new quarantine arrangements. There is 1 more due to arrive later today. The total number of passengers between those 7 flights will be somewhere in the vicinity of 300 to 400. And all of those 6 flights, which have come from places such as Santiago in Chile, from New Zealand, from China, from Doha and from Canada, have been met groundside at the plane. They've been escorted by health department officials. They have had a brief medical check, have been provided with some refreshments, put on buses and taken to city hotels. We have secured something in the vicinity of 5,000 hotel rooms for the purposes of this new quarantine arrangement. We have, however, got many thousand more offers that have been made to us, so there is no risk of any shortage of hotel rooms, and all of those passengers returning will now undergo mandatory 2-week quarantine at those Melbourne hotels with security guards in place. Look, this is incredibly important. Something like 60% of all the cases have been...
So as he mentioned there, with security guards in place, and right now to the current interview where Premier Daniel Andrew, he refuses to answer the questions relating to that hotel quarantine.
In the middle of April, Caucus was told about the use of security guards. Jenny Mikakos was at a press conference at the end of March where Martin Pakula mentioned the use of security guards. How's it possible that she only knew about private security guard use in May?
What people knew, when they knew it, what people did, and the degree to which that was right, wrong or indifferent, that is a matter that the board is actively examining today and every day until they produce a report, which will be in early November. And I cannot and I will not pretend to be the chair of the inquiry. That's not why it was set up.
Is that a standard that the community should be satisfied with? This is a senior member of your government who seems to have vagued out at fairly key moments during the pandemic response.
Well, again, it is not for me to draw those conclusions today. Those matters, those and many, many other matters, they'll be matters that the chair of the inquiry will...
So there you go, that's his response there. Well, right now, Jos Frydenberg says that the current credit framework is not fit for purpose.
But our current regulatory framework with respect to lending is not fit for purpose. It's become overly prescriptive, it's become increasingly costly, it's become increasingly complex, and responsible lending has become restrictive lending. And the Governor of the Reserve Bank has pointed out that banks have become now risk averse to the point that they don't want to make loans that they fear may be going bad. And we need our banks to be extending credit. We need the regulation to be streamlined. We need customers to be able to access credit, and we will have in place through APRA, the Australian Prudential Regulatory Authority, the appropriate risk-based, principles-based framework to protect customers.
So there you go, with the customer protection there and easing of the lending criteria. As I mentioned before, we might see a lot more people coming into that market. So as long as the protection is in that place, so there's no need for such a horrendous task. Well, right now, the earlier news about is passing away in India. As we know, that just before Brett Lee fronted TV only hours after performing CPR in an attempt to save Dean Jones' life. Let's go to that report.
Is that he would have wanted us to be here tonight because it's pretty much the select Dino, we call it. It's not the select dugout, it's Dino's dugout tonight. So he's an absolute legend. Obviously, firstly to his family and friends, we send our condolences. It's a real tough day for everyone, not only for his close mates and his close mates at home and the whole cricketing world in general.
So, it is heartbreaking, but, what do we do? Well, right now, Justin Langer, who is the Australian cricket coach, says Dean Jones made a big difference to the game.
An incredibly sad time when we found out last night. Guys who are close to him that are in Dubai with him. It's my gosh, it's a real shock. I guess I was only talking to Jonesy last week, and the more I think about it overnight, probably summed him up. He was so passionate about Australian cricket. He was so passionate about the game of cricket, full stop. And we were talking about how we can do things better. One thing about Dean Jones is there's not that many players who really revolutionised the game. You think about maybe Warney, you think about Adam Gilchrist and Dean Jones with one-day cricket, the way he's running between the wickets, his athletic. And
he will be definitely missed, as we know that, it's a big loss for cricket, and we have also lost SP Balasubramaniam yesterday as well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now let's go to the events. Remember, a lot of these events are taking place virtually and on the website. So there we go. And ladies and gentlemen, with that, it's time to say goodbye. Please go and enjoy whatever's left of the weekend, and of course, take very, very extreme care with the fire. Of course, or also if you're going out in the sun, the UV protection, which is recommended. Please do that, and of course, of all these things, please do remain safe. Until Monday, it's goodbye from me.